following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Let's go, baby.
Are you ready for a break?
Yes.
Are you ready for a break?
Absolutely.
Ready for a break?
Yeah, and so much for that.
It's time for The Break on DallasCowboys.com.
We were on a break.
With Nick Eatman, David Hellman, Ambar Garcia, and Derek Eagleton.
It is Wednesday, May 19th, 2021, Season 16, Episode number 110. Welcome to the latest edition of The Break. We are live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. We are presented by Geico, and we appreciate you guys taking some time with us today to talk a little Cowboys football here on The Break. Got Nick, Dave, and Amber with me. We're going to catch you guys up on the rookie minicamp, which you guys attended last week. We'll get some perspective from you on some things you saw, some things that stood out to you. We'll also talk a little bit about schedule release, which we haven't had a chance to talk about yet. Cowboys and the NFL released their 2021 schedule last week, and so we'll catch up on your thoughts on some of the best things and worst things about the schedule. And then we got a little game of See or No. We haven't played that in a long time. Amber's got some questions for us, and maybe even we will get to some fan questions today. Maybe we'll get some phone calls from some fans and hear what you guys have to say, hear some questions from you, and see what these guys have to say. How's everybody doing today?
Great.
Good.
Awesome.
Good. Let's jump right in, and let's start with the rookie minicamp. It was last week. It's not a full contact type thing. Guys are in shorts and T-shirts and helmets. But I'll start first by going around the table and just getting some perspective of what may have stood out. One thing that stood out to you as you watched those practices. Let's start first with you, Dave.
Maybe start with somebody else since they were actually here.
Forgot. Yes, you were not here. You didn't get it. But I'm sure you've seen and heard something. But anyway, let's start with you.
I'll formulate. I can formulate something, but maybe start with somebody that was
here. Sure,
Nick,
let's start with you.
Well, I feel like I'm kind of taking the obvious one here, but
okay.
I mean, it starts with this draft class starts with Micah Parsons, and I think that it's one of those things where when's Zach Martin coming? When's Tyron Smith coming back? Because, I mean, these guys can't block him. I understand the pads aren't on yet and all that, but he could do what he wanted to. He was moving really well, and he could get by the guys that they had blocking there. So the competition will be better. The pads come on. It's more physical. It's harder for offensive linemen to really, get your hands on these guys and all that because – especially a first-round pick, you got to be careful with it. But I thought he from his movement, he looked really good. He looked like you want him to look in that first day.
Amber.
What stood out to me was Dan Quinn. The fact to see him in there, and again, this is not a real practice or anything, but the fact that you see him so hands-on and being involved, it reminded me of, oh my God, my brain. The coach I really like.
Rod Marinelli?
No.
Chris Richard.
No, Rod Marinelli is
No,
fine.
not
no,
him.
No.
Yeah, why would you say him?
Yeah.
No, I didn't mean it like that.
The one that's not employed.
Sorry, I didn't mean it like that. No, but Chris Richard.
Richard?
Yeah, Richard's with the Saints now.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, I know he wasn't necessarily great here, but one thing that I loved about him was how involved he was within the players and the defense and just being in there in the game. Now, Dan Quinn, he's a defensive coordinator. That's not necessarily his role. The fact that he went in there when Quinton Bahana, sorry if I said his name wrong, but went out, banged up his shoulder, I believe, left for a little bit, and then Dan Quinn goes in there at tackle and it's hands-on. That is super cool for me. I love to see it. I love to see a leader that can be involved and just get in there with the players and just be a part of it. And that's exciting to me. And I just absolutely love anytime I see a coach, especially a coordinator, just being that involved and making sure, because that, again, is so important for the chemistry too, with bonding with the players and all that. I feel like players will look up to him even more when someone does that. So that stood out for me for sure. I just absolutely loved that.
So I was at a old and very dear friend's wedding. That's why I wasn't here, and I really appreciate y'all giving me the work-life balance to do that.
That's Nick, because I was like,
he was like, get here.
What is he?
What
doing?
Are you talking about?
No.
No.
I cannot believe you missed rookie minicamp.
You know what?
That's embarrassing.
I always fast forward 5 years down the road with your friends in
100%.
New Orleans, and they're like, "You didn't even come to the wedding. Why?" Well, because we were watching Dan Quinn in the middle of this rookie minicamp, and Micah Parsons. And no, it never holds up.
I did miss a dear friend's wedding for the Seahawks Cowboys playoff game, and that holds water for me.
That makes a little bit.
My friend Rob, he busts on me all the time. He's like, "Glad you love me enough to come to my wedding over a football game." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's the playoffs, and like Dak had that run, and like I don't, I love you, but I don't feel that bad about that."
Right.
But like to miss a wedding for a rookie mini camp,
life moments. You got to do some life moments.
But
right?
regardless, I just had my eye on it from afar, and two things that really jumped out to me, which you definitely don't want to overreact, but the team sent out the clip of Jabril Cox getting a pick in some 7-on-7, which it was a tipped ball, and the quarterback that threw it is not going to play on Sundays. So take all of that with a grain of salt. But the guy is noted for his coverage ability. So for him to step out there and do
it wasn't just a pick. It was 30 yards down the field.
Yeah.
It was a coverage. It was getting back there in coverage. I mean, that was the impressive part, I thought.
And then the other one, I was embarrassed about how excited I got about this because we argued last week. I was like, don't put these expectations on these day 3 picks. That's dumb. But then we actually posted the clip of Barry Church from the Players Lounge. Barry was like blown away by Israel Mukuamu. I mean, he was just gushing about his movement skills, his how smooth he looks. He's got the hips, and Barry's not he's not going to the Hall of Fame, but he played safety in the NFL for 9 years. Like I trust
made a bunch of money doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I trust his opinion a lot. Yeah. So for him to if you haven't seen it, go look on our channels for it. He had so much good stuff to say about the kid, and I was like, all right. Again, I know he's in shorts, but if Barry Church thinks he looks that great, then I'm going to take his word for it that I should be intrigued.
Here's Bucky Brooks listed Mukuamu as one of his top 5 favorite picks. He really loved that pick. I'll say this though. It's intriguing that a guy that's played it, like Barry Church has played it, he knows what he's looking for. But I'll say this, though. Cornerbacks that convert to safety are going to look good at safety in rookie minicamp because they're not hitting anybody and they're not, they're just can you keep up with the tight end? Well,
Are you fluid?
Are you
which
fluid?
Is cornerback.
Right.
Yeah.
But what's going to make him make that transition is can he make the calls? Is he instinctive? And will he get in there and hit? And I think he will. But I just think it's early because any corner is going to look. What are we looking at here? I'm like,
they have video of him. That's what Chris does. Our producer's all over it.
Yeah,
Keep talking.
He definitely looks the part for sure. And he talked about his length. I got a chance to talk to him the other day, and he said, he said, "Hey Jerry, you got the best cornerback in the draft." And then about an hour later, Dan Quinn called him and said, "Yeah, about that. We're moving you to safety." And so I said, "Does your confidence carry over?" He's like, "Oh yeah, they're going to get the best safety in the draft." So. He's a confident dude. Yeah. And don't think teams didn't pick on him. He played corner opposite J.C. Horn at South Carolina. They threw at him. Mm-hmm. And so he made enough plays to obviously get drafted.
Yeah. He wears 38, so he's probably going to be a baller if I had to guess.
If there was one thing, if there was
absolutely.
one player that you would say you have a different opinion of now than maybe you had before, good or bad, or just something about them stood out that you didn't really expect to notice during the minicamp, what would it be? Nick?
I'm probably stealing this one. Probably Nashaan Wright. I thought he did a pretty good job, especially that second day. He was making a lot of plays. He looked like a cornerback is supposed to look, and even though he's tall, I thought he did a nice job, breaks on the balls and stuff like that. But as Dave said, it's hard to tell out there with the quarterbacks and the receivers and all that, but he did a nice job. And I thought, not that I had mixed opinions about him, but I just, we'll see what he looks like. I thought he did a good job.
Let me start off by saying that I came in here, it's been a while since we've seen football and players being on the field. So you come in here excited, okay, we're finally going to get to see some action. And it's hard, at least for me, it was difficult because I'm judging with another level where I have to, okay, hold on a second, let me step back. This is first day, second day of rookie minicamp. Like, let me not be so judgmental, because there were a lot of things that happened. I'm like, are you kidding me? This is this is what I'm seeing on the field right now. And, so it was really tough for me to even judge. And, back to what Nick was talking about, Micah Parsons, yes, he looked good, but then you go back and look at the offense, how awful they were. So it's just hard to get a grasp to the whole thing. So I'm going to lean on one of the interviews with Kelvin Joseph. I think that my opinion has started to change a little bit. And I know even before then, I didn't want to be so judgy because I don't know him. There's a lot of information that I don't know about. So listening to him speak and the way that he was talking, it just gave me ease, and it made me feel a little bit better about his commitment with the team and what he's here to do, aside from everything that media and even us, we talked about it on the show last week, that we've been talking about, is he really 100% committed to football based on his, I guess, hobby and all of that outside the field. So just the way that he spoke and just kind of saying, there's no, and it's true, everyone can have a hobby and you can be 100% committed to your job and all that, but just hearing it out of his mouth, and not just that, another one of his teammates just kind of backing him up and all that. So it just made me feel somewhat better and say, okay, this guy, it's here for business, even if it's for the money and to get paid. We all here to get paid too. So it just, my opinion on him started changing a little bit.
Which, by the way, is, I thought it interesting. I saw you tweeted about this, Dave, about him mentioning the fact that, the money is important. It's a driver. And there were some fans that were kind of like, well, that makes me a little bit weirded out because he's doing it for the money. And my thought was, like, I think we all, to some respects, do our jobs for the money. Now, don't get me wrong. You can love what you do, but it still is a job. And part of why you still do it is because you're able to make money. You're able to take care of your family. And if you're able to get to that level of playing in the NFL, you're able to take care of maybe your grandkids and great-grandkids as a part of doing this job. So that's a great motivator, and there should be nothing about that should be considered bad, I don't think.
I will speak for Nick. I think I can. I've worked with you for a while. Like, we are living out our childhood dreams.
Yeah.
Dream job. Like, and so many people would kill to do what we do. If you told me tomorrow that I wasn't getting paid for it, I'd be pretty pissed off. I'm like, no, that's not part of the deal.
Then I won't be there the day after.
Like, we got to come to some arrangement. Like, no, I need money. Money is important to me.
Not so dreamy anymore.
It ain't a dream job if you're not getting paid to do it.
Right.
And these guys, I mean, not very many people can do what Kelvin Joseph does. So he's worth a lot of money because of that. And the fans that have a problem with it are the reason he's worth as much money as he is. Yeah. So I hate that attitude. And I'm with you. Took the words right out of my mouth, AG. I thought he was really impressive the way he handled that. And he was like, I know the difference between my profession and my hobbies. And again, that's something everybody should relate to. Yep. We all have things that we enjoy doing on our own time when it doesn't affect our work, and there's nothing wrong with that. But as long as you're committed to what you get paid to do, what your job is. I was going to say Monday to Friday, but I guess it's really more
whenever you're called upon.
Whenever you're called
right?
upon, yeah.
That was kind of my thing too. I think a couple people went after us on Twitter, at least me, because it's all about as long as your focus is here, and it really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it is, if it's bowling or playing tennis or golf like Romo did, or rap. I mean, as I told William, who's upstairs, I told him, I'm not against rap. I'm not against rappers, which is, I don't know if you know that reference, but no, you don't know that song?
No.
Anyways, I love rap. By the way, if it's 1993,
I was gonna say Nick's sweet spot is like 90 to 95.
Yeah,
probably.
And then it switches more. It's more of an R&B thing.
Yeah.
I agree with you guys. I talked to him and I liked what he said. Now he does have a focus though. One of his focuses getting out of 24. He doesn't really want that number. So he was like, he comes up to me and he was like, who's in number 1, number 2? I'm like, well, Pro Bowl kicker's in number 2, so good luck with that one. But man, who knows? I mean, who knows what happens?
I don't want him in 24 either. And which I'm the one that, like, I don't believe in superstition, but like they keep giving 24 to these young cornerbacks, and it hasn't really worked out for any of them.
That's true.
Claiborne, Cheeto.
Yeah.
Those are the two big ones.
Yeah.
The number did it? The
No,
number was the problem?
I know the number didn't do it. Like, it won't be his number that determines his success, but I still just see
Who are we talking
it.
about?
Nah,
Any of them, all of them. But I'm just like,
Oh, we're not done
Why
talking
put that
about
on
numbers.
him, right? I mean, that's the way I look at it. Is it, especially if he doesn't want it. Like,
Is
why put
it
that on him?
true what I heard about number 9?
For the air.
Now-
I don't. I,
I
don't know what you're talking
I
about.
don't know. I don't know where that stands right now.
yeah.
I don't know. My source is kind of iffy.
I honestly don't know
My
where that
source
stands
is
right
not
now.
a great source.
Yeah.
So I'm just, I don't know. Nick hinted at we're not done talking
We're
about
not done
numbers.
talking
so
about
I'm
numbers.
just
There's guys that are
asking.
going to change numbers.
Yeah.
I know of 2 guys that are definitely going to change their numbers. It hasn't really been announced, and for some of them, it's important for them to announce it. So, and I'm sure once the roster gets pared down and all that, because you got like multiple quarterbacks, you got multiple punters, those numbers are going to start opening up, and the guys will switch around.
Like, yeah, Parsons is going to wear 11, but
we know that.
But yeah, we know that.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, you see changes every year after training
Yeah.
camp. It's
And
fine.
this will probably be another year where you'll see that. Let's talk about Micah Parsons. Nick, you led with him. We found out last week in an interview that he did, I think, was it exclusive with us? But I know we had it, but he talked about the fact that he is right now starting off working at middle linebacker, which I think for everybody was kind of like okay. So talk to me about what do you think that means as far as, how he fits into what they're going to do, knowing they've got 2 linebackers who have at different times played middle linebacker. What does this mean for that position group if he's your guy that starts the season at middle linebacker?
Well, I thought it was interesting when they asked McCarthy about it. Naturally, he kind of shot it down like it wasn't that big a deal. But one of the things that they wanted him to do was get in there and listen and have the mic, the headset in the for the calls, so be able to make the call. So that's one of the things. But he said all the linebackers have to do 2 positions. They all have to learn two spots. So him starting out in the rookie minicamp at middle linebacker is not that big a deal. But Parsons said, when asked about it, he said, yeah, they want me to go sideline to sideline. And the best way for me to do that is to be right in the middle of the action. So, what does it mean for where Leighton's going to play and all that? It's just so hard to tell because we don't really know how Dan Quinn's going to play this thing. He's got a lot of options. They're gonna be on the field. I think if you can play, they'll be out there.
They're going to do the exact same thing they did last year, which is use the fact that nobody knows to try to get an advantage, which did not work at all last year. Hopefully it'll produce some better results this time around. But yeah, and rookie minicamp doesn't really mean anything to me because like who else is out there with him? Jabril Cox, the Texas A&M undrafted guy, I guess. This isn't the real linebacker core. So, but it is that, and that was the debate about Parsons is a pure off-ball linebacker who runs and hits worth a top 10 pick or 12? I know that's where he was eventually drafted. Is there going to be a pass rush element? Or, I thought something really interesting. It wasn't a coach, but, we all respect the hell out of Todd Archer. He's been doing this for a long time. If he says something, he's probably got good information about it.
Plugged in, yeah.
He said something along the lines of Micah can play Mike, and I think Leighton will be back at will when this thing all shakes out. He didn't say
What
he didn't say made my eyebrows perk way up because if that's really what's happening, then you're saying what is Jalen Smith's role? Are you going to have a $13 million role playing linebacker? You talk about learning 2 positions. Is Jalen going to do Mike and Sam and be like your Sam and base and off the field and nickel? I think a lot of people would probably prefer that, but there's politics that go into this, whether it's money, whether it's the fact that Jalen is one of the most visible players on the team. How does that actually take shape? And we don't know. What I did say about Micah was, if you're drafting him where you're drafting him, I think there needs to be a component of rushing the passer, whether that's doing some edge work or just blitzing a lot. I wonder if maybe Jalen could do that as well. If you would rather just if you just want Micah to play Mike 100% of the time, that's fine. But Jalen Smith maybe could be your Leo or something and that's what makes that so interesting is they got to find something to do with one of those guys aside from just play traditional off-ball linebacker.
Yeah, and I've thought about that before too. The issue becomes if you're going to do that, that means you're taking either DeMarcus Lawrence or you're taking Randy Gregory off the field in those situations
Not
if they're
necessarily.
going to be that outside linebacker, right?
Not necessarily, and that's it's the most overhyped thing in the world. But people talk about the Leo, which is, it is like a defensive end type of role. But again, we saw last year they had 5-man fronts. That's really what that was, So I think it's possible to do a little bit of both, maybe.
It'll be interesting to see. But here's the deal. You're not losing. It's not like the Cowboys can actually help themselves by getting rid of Jalen Smith. The money is the money at this point, right? So it's one of those situations where he's likely on the team just because it doesn't make sense financially to not have him on the team this year. So he's going to be here. You shouldn't. I wouldn't think you would let that affect your decisions on how you deploy him because that becomes a non-factor in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's already spent money at this point.
Yeah, and it's basically they're turning it into hopefully he's aware, or his agent is aware enough to realize this is pretty much a contract year for him, even though it technically isn't. The writing's on the wall about what they can do. It's like you said, it's tough to move him this year. It's not tough next year. And same with Leighton. They've made that into a contract year for him. So I think we're going to get the very best of what these guys can do this year. And then the factor you didn't really say, I don't think I heard, it was Keon O'Neal. He's going to factor into all this too.
I keep for
Will Cox, right? He factors into this. There's a lot of options here.
I don't know what to do with it. I was floored when Dan Quinn, because he didn't want to tell us anything specific when we talked to him, but he very specifically was like, he's a linebacker. He's going to play linebacker. I was like, where? What are you doing? I just assumed he was going to move back to safety, which maybe he still could. Coaches lie all the time, but for him to say that so bluntly was very surprising to me.
Yeah, I think there's so many options for how they could play this, and there's gonna. It's interesting you say that this is effectively is a contract year for Jalen, because it's tough to put a guy in a situation where it's a contract year and you're going to limit his playing time, right? You don't really give him a lot of opportunity to earn the opportunity to continue with that deal, and that could be tough for him.
I say screw politics. I hate politics. You need to get whoever's doing the best out there. And I don't care how much money you're making. And I get it, because that's a very high expense. And you're wasting that money on someone that is not producing anything for you on the field. But I'm with the initial scenario that Dave presented here, where you get, maybe I'm speaking too soon because I have barely seen anything from Parsons yet. Mm-hmm. But if he really is looking good once we get everyone in there and he's doing better, and we'll see in the preseason games as well. But if he gets to that point where all of us are saying, you know what, this guy needs to be more on the field, I'm the first one to sit someone down. And again, you never know when someone might get injured. You never know when Leighton Vander Esch is going to have to come off the field. There's always this rotation scenario that you can also do. So I think that everyone's going to get plenty of playing time. But at the end of the day, you need to keep the best player on the field, regardless of who's a veteran, regardless of how much money you're making. You got to focus on winning and having the best guys out there.
What we know of Jalen is his best ability is his availability. And I think that might factor in this year like it's factored in every other year of his career. Like, he may be the guy that, you start getting injuries. He doesn't seem to get hurt. So he might still get his opportunities, even if he starts the season not being the guy, one of the two guys that are getting the most snaps at linebacker.
Because he's always last on the play. So how is he going to get hurt? He's always in the back.
Wow.
Swiping. Sorry, I hate to hate, but I'm not trying to be a hater.
That's not accurate when you're leading the team and even the league in tackles, and you're not always last. He leads the team in tackles.
Not always last.
But he leads the team in tackles. It wasn't.
You really want to have this debate?
No, I'm just saying we got to call it for what it is. Is he worth the contract? No, he's not. He hasn't been worth the contract. And I think what you guys said was right. Like with the money, he's on the team.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you have to play, though.
Right.
And so, I agree. Best player plays at this point for this year.
But see, I like AG. I love her perspective because you're the moral compass of the fan base. Like, this is what should happen. We know that that's not always what happens. That's my point. And you don't see a lot of $13 million players who are subbed in as sub package and role playing guys. It's just not how it works.
Well, you also don't see a situation where a lot of times where teams will go out and invest so much in an offseason at a position where they got a $13 million guy there.
It's the epitome of a sunk cost. Like the money is spent. What's done is done. So maybe it's less. Maybe that factors less in the decision-making process in this case.
They've thrown more resources at linebacker this offseason than maybe any other position on the team. If that doesn't tell you a ton about what they think about the two linebackers they have, you can say what you want to say about, and they can say, we love you, we love you, but they threw a ton of resources at the linebacker position this offseason.
And it's funny to think the other spot, probably the other big trouble spot that gives you a lot of pause about the future is offensive tackle. And they showed you what they thought about that too. They spent the bare minimum on a free agent swing tackle, and they waited until day 3 to draft an offensive tackle.
When they had a really good one available to them in the first round.
Yeah.
They opted for linebacker rather than tackle, right?
Not saying they're right, but it speaks volumes about how they feel.
Exactly. All right, we're going to take our first break. When we come back, let's talk a little bit about the schedule. It's an interesting schedule. Cowboys will kick off the season against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We'll ask each of these guys what we think the best and the worst things in their opinions are about this year's schedule for the Cowboys. We'll be right back. This is DallasCowboys.com radio.
Honey, big news.
Gary, are you okay?
Oh, I'm not Gary anymore. I'm Jackie Flash.
What?
See, I want the latest smartphone, but the best deals are only for new customers. So, to get a new customer deal, I changed my name to Jackie Flash.
Okay, but the best smartphone deals at AT&T are for everyone, new and existing customers.
That's huge. Then guess who's getting a deal?
Is it Jackie Flash?
Jackie Flash.
It's not complicated. At AT&T, our best smartphone deals are for everyone. Restrictions apply. Visit att.com for details.
Hi, I'm Clint Tillison with United Ag and Turf. Before you can park yourself in front of the game, park yourself in a John Deere and power through your chores. Our Land Run package is a 1025R, 25 horsepower tractor with a loader, rotary cutter, and a box blade for $229 a month. And the price you see is the price you'll pay. No surprises. So don't miss another kickoff.
Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com. Offer ends February 1st, 2021. Restrictions apply. See dealer for details.
Now let's get to work.
The Cowboys way, where 16 Hall of Famers and 5 championships shows us what success looks like. Where turkey is always the second best part of Thanksgiving Day. Where we are all defined by one single thing, the star. Where we as fans know it's our job to keep the tradition going. Bank of America is proud to be the official bank of the Dallas Cowboys and to support the quest of living life the Cowboys way. Copyright 2020, Bank of America Corporation.
Since 1865, Stetson hats are American-made with pride right here in Texas. And Stetson is proud to be on the field with America's team. Want to show your Texas and team pride too? You can. By purchasing your own Stetson, you can look just like how the flag guys do on field at every home game. Stetson hats, the official crown of all self-respecting Cowboys, and your favorite football team.
Get yours today at shop.dallascowboys.com or at stetson.com.
Back to the break.
Dallas Cowboys football and Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders dance youth camps are back this summer for athletes and dancers of all skill levels. 2- and 3-day camps are available at AT&T Stadium and the Star in Frisco. Spots are limited. Register today at dallascowboys.com/academy.
Welcome back to the second segment of the break, live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. We're presented by Geico. Let's talk a little bit about the schedule. Cowboys released the schedule last week to a lot of fanfare, a lot of dancing and partying by one Jerry Jones and Post Malone. If you haven't seen the video, do yourself a favor and go check that out. We've actually done really well. It's been very highly viewed and reviewed piece of content. So, but the Cowboys released their schedule. Lots of interesting little nuggets throughout. So I'll open it up to you guys, and let's go around the table. Tell me what you think first is the best thing for the Cowboys about this schedule. Let's start with you, Amber. That look.
Well, I keep looking at the schedule, and it's hard to judge. I don't, I always want to say that the end looks the easiest, but then it never is like that for the Cowboys. It never happens to be. Again, we don't know what this team is going to turn out to be, but I'm hoping that this year they can start out better than before and actually have an advantage towards the end of the season with Washington, the Giants, the divisional rivals here. with the NFC East, but hopefully those games are not as crucial as they always are. Which again, I'm just talking on both sides here because they always end up being. But I don't know. I don't know what any of these teams are going to turn out to be. But I'm hoping that that is the case. And I'm hoping that we have the whole O-line healthy and available by that end, that last month of the season, and that you're not having to really, really put everything on the line towards the end so that you can have those guys back healthy by the playoffs if we get there.
The best thing about the schedule? We are gonna talk about the worst thing.
Yes, we are gonna get to the worst thing.
Yeah.
Right now, focus on the best thing. Let's start positive, and then we'll go.
The best thing about the schedule is really not the order. It's just the fact that your strength of schedule from last year is not that strong. It's actually one of the easiest.
Which I saw that, and that confused me because I looked at the schedule and said, "How could?"
Because you're playing the division.
I get that, but other teams are playing the division too, and I mean, you're talking about the. You got both teams that were in the Super Bowl last year.
On the road.
You got other really good teams.
Which the strength of schedule thing in the NFL is the most overrated statistic. Like the difference between worst and best, like the easiest strength of schedule is like 48% win percentage, and the hardest is like 53. Like we're bickering about 5%. Like it's just it doesn't matter as much as people want it to.
I'm gonna say nothing. Really, and I'm not trying to be really negative. I just know when you go into a schedule, there's things that you look for, and there's things that you try to avoid. There's about 3 things you try to avoid if possible, and they've got them all. And that's so I can't look at anything and say, well, this is a really good thing. And I'm not really trying to be negative here. I just what's an answer here?
I got one for you too. Go ahead. I will say, I hate people that are like, the league hates us because they did. Like, I hate that. You got to play 17 games. Everybody does. We've known the opponents forever. And if you're in the NFC, you're going to have more road than home. It is what it is. Just play I hate that. I hate when people get all bent out of shape about that. Having said that, the schedule doesn't do them a ton of favors. But one favor that they do have is it's a damn division party all the way through the last 6 weeks of the season. You play 4 of your 6 starting December 12th going through the end of the year, and you don't play anybody twice before then, so nobody's got a tiebreaker over you. So even if they, for whatever reason, somebody gets hurt or they just don't have it, maybe they suck all the way through Thanksgiving, but you got a real chance to make up for that by playing everybody in the division down the home stretch of the season. I mean, you play Washington twice, you get and then you play New York and Philly once each. We all think that Philly and New York are the lesser 2 teams. Like Washington and Dallas are above, and we agree with that, right? So you get the 2 easier teams, and so if you're just treading water when you get through Thanksgiving, you got to. I mean, if you just kick everybody in the division's ass, it doesn't matter. And Dak's great against the division, so as long as he's there, I feel good about that.
Now I'm starting to wonder if I'm misreading this, but the one that I would point out, and to me, just immediately when I saw the schedule, I was like, I love this for the Cowboys. Is even if you say, okay, first game of the season, they're going to lose going to Tampa to play the defending champions, just give them that as a loss. Those next 4 games, Cowboys got a chance to get off to a really fast start. You're talking about going to the Chargers. Again, that wasn't a good team last year. Philadelphia, you just mentioned, wasn't a good team last year. Carolina wasn't a good team last year. New York Giants wasn't a good team last year. So you got 4 teams lined up there in weeks 2.
Throw New England in there too. They're not good.
They weren't bad, but
no, they weren't good either.
No, I'm saying yes, they weren't good last year. The only reason I didn't put them in that same category is because I think we all say the likelihood that Belichick does that 2 years in a row probably ain't great. He's probably going to be better this year than he was last year, but maybe not. If you want to go off just last year, you're absolutely right. Throw New England in there with it. So my point is, you start off the season in an opportunity to really get off to a fast start. I know the first game's going to be extremely challenging, but those next several weeks, you could run off some wins and stack some wins there if you're a good team.
They play the world champs on September the 9th on the road. They don't face another playoff team until November 21st.
Exactly.
Another Super Bowl team.
Yeah, but it gets rough in that point. That's when you start getting to the treacherous part of the schedule. But you can really make some headway in the early part of the schedule. There's not a lot of. Now again, we don't know what these teams are going to be this year. We're basing all this on last year.
And that's the thing, that they're looking at Dallas saying, well, Dallas wasn't good last year. And these teams are probably going to be better than what they were. Some of them. I mean, I think Barkley's going to make the Giants a better team. I mean, I think McCaffrey will probably make Carolina a better team.
Absolutely will.
I think Herbert will be just better along.
Well, they'll get one of their best defensive players. Like they lost actually 2 or 3 of their best defensive players. Right?
That's dangerous.
Yeah,
it's not really a road game.
How would you be judging the Cowboys?
Same thing.
Looking from the outside.
I'd be like, hey, I wouldn't call them a 6-10 team, knowing
But
that.
do you think they're better?
Oh yeah,
I think the consensus on the Cowboys is that they're a very flawed team with an offense that gives them a chance to beat anybody.
Yeah.
If it's healthy the way it's supposed to be.
And if they got a respected, well-respected coordinator now, they got a plug-and-play defensive player in there too. So, if you stop the bleeding on defense and the offense gets back, I'm sure that's scary.
But I will say, I think it's just PTSD from last year. But this will go up in smoke before training camp's over. Like somebody's going to lose a player that changes. I mean, McCaffrey went out like week 1 of their season. Who knows how much better Carolina is if he's there, and on and on and on and on. And I'm just like Philly, Carolina, New York, New England. Honestly, all the way through Atlanta, like all of those games look winnable. They beat Minnesota without Dak last year. Denver doesn't have a quarterback right now. God, I'd made this joke on our schedule release show. Can you imagine if Denver trades for Rodgers?
I know.
Before the season?
That changes that game. That game may not, I don't know if they can flex at that point, but they're going to be really kicking themselves if that's still a noon game.
But again, that goes back to my point. Is like on paper, you're like, oh, hell yeah, beat Minnesota without Dak last year. Denver doesn't have a quarterback, and when they beat Atlanta last year too. And then Rodgers gets traded to Denver on June 15th, and we're like, well, that's a loss. We know this. Like you just never know,
right? And I guess you can only count on you're factoring based upon what you saw from them last year. And I do think, although there are a lot of teams that lost a lot of players, when you lose your quarterback, to me, that's a little bit different. Like losing your quarterback makes a ton of difference in the NFL. And so I think the Cowboys, I give them a little bit more deference than maybe some of these teams that may have lost a safety or defensive end or whatever the case might have been.
I will say this. That November 21st at Kansas City Chiefs, 4 days before Thanksgiving, is all Philadelphia's fault. It is the Philadelphia Eagles' fault that the Cowboys have to do that. Because if you remember, a few years ago, they made that rule change proposal. The Eagles hate that the Cowboys' Thursday game is basically built in at home. Like it's an unfair advantage. And so they're saying, well, you get to always play a Thursday game at home. You don't have to deal with short week travel. And the league's not going to take that away from the Cowboys. Right. But it's unfair advantage if you get to play at home on the Sunday before Thanksgiving and you don't even have to deal with any of that. Right. And so I just feel like the league is like, all right, let's throw these people that are upset about this a bone and give Dallas a really tough thing to deal with on the Sunday before Thanksgiving.
Yeah. I think what they do with these back-to-back Thursdays is also unsafe. I don't think that's fair for the Cowboys because
it's still 7 days, right?
Yeah, but it's 7 days after 4. Like, you have to face a team on the road in Kansas City, and that is going to be a gut-wrenching type of game, and they all are. And then 4 days later, you got to go play the Raiders at home. You're at home for Thanksgiving like they always do. But your body hasn't even recovered from the game before. You need 10 days at that point. They don't give them that. They give them 7. I think that is tough. I don't know what their record is in that Thursday game, but I'm just saying that is a tough turnaround because you're just like with anything, if you do it in 4 days, you need a break. Nobody else in the league, I think, is doing that except for those
teams that play on Thanksgiving.
Those 2 teams that have to play, that Thursday.
I think the first year I was here was the first year they ever did this. And it was such a boon for NFL Network that it's going to be on the schedule.
It is.
And I hate it.
It's their only way to get the Cowboys.
And that's the only reason it exists. Is like
every team has to play a Thursday night on NFL Network. So
that's the only way for them to do it.
But
because otherwise you got 2 weeks when you'd have to have a 4-day week, right? So you kind of have to do it right then.
It's really this is pure selfishness. I hate we will never have Thanksgiving weekend off again for the rest of our lives as long as this is built into the schedule because instead of
They're
like
practicing.
you play on Thanksgiving and you're like, all right, well, I missed Thanksgiving, but I've got this long weekend.
Football.
And
Well, you get it
instead
that
you
next
go right
weekend,
back into
but
a
it's
game
not
week.
Thanksgiving, right? Yeah.
And I mean, that's, obviously nobody cares about my first world problems, but it pisses me off.
Yeah. All right. Give me your best. Well, no, we already did best. Give me your worst thing about the schedule. Yeah.
As I said before, I think there's things you go into the schedule and you're like looking to avoid. And I think that they hit a lot of them on here. If you're going to have to start the season on the road, you wouldn't think your week 2 is going to have to be also on the road and on the opposite coast.
Opposite coast, yeah.
And if you are going to start the season on the road for 2 games, surely you get to end the season at home. No, you don't. So I think how they started and how they ended, and you don't like seeing a three straight road games either. So I'm probably taking everybody's answers, but I just think
you just pointed out all of them.
Starting the season with two road games like that, and then ending the season with road. That's probably not any favors there.
Amber.
Not just being on the road, but who is the opponent on the road? Like that's the one thing I look at is a lot of these teams that are on the road for the Cowboys are tough, are going to be
their
tough.
Road schedule's hard.
So that and we know that sometimes a lot of people believe in home field advantage. I'm kind of iffy on that, but the Cowboys, we've seen it happen many times where they go to somebody else's stadium and they just don't perform well, whether it's due to weather or whatever the reason may be. It's tough. It is tough. So that is what I'm looking at. The opponents on the road, it's concerning. It's going to be hard.
Which I don't want to contradict myself because, Patrick Mahomes might not play in that game. Like you can't.
What?
You never know. You never ever know. But that stretch starting with the Chiefs game just looks looks so brutal, and it really doesn't even have anything to do with the quality of the opponents, but to go at Kansas City, short week, Thanksgiving, turn around, and also even if Mahomes isn't playing, one of the 3 toughest road venues in the NFL, Arrowhead Stadium, then you turn around, again, Drew Brees is gone, maybe the Saints aren't any good, but a night game in the Superdome, again, that's a huge environment. Then you turn around, another road game, division game. Then you turn around and another road game, a division game. So 2 highly important division games. You play 4 road games in 5 weeks. So basically half of your road schedule in a 21-day stretch. And by the way, the Chiefs and at the Saints are thrown in there as well. I just think, again, maybe the Giants and Washington won't even be that good, but to do all of that and so much of it on the road in such a short span of time, I mean, that's going to be tough on
And
anybody.
division's still division, whether they're good or bad.
Yeah, right.
Division is still a division game.
You think the Cowboys? You think AT&T Stadium is maybe at fault for this? I hate to say that.
In what way?
I hate to say it like that, but
I don't know.
There's probably a Big 12 championship game play. There's probably high school football. I mean, not that they haven't switched that before.
I don't think high school football would
honestly, I don't
matter,
think so because I don't know that those things necessarily preclude you from being able to have an NFL game on a Sunday.
I want to say high school, they don't even change the field for the high school games.
So I don't know that would be a part of that at all.
I'm just wondering. I mean, that just seems like they're really attacking them right there.
I mean,
I don't think.
Well,
you get a home
when
game
you're making the Cowboys schedule, there are a lot of other things that you're factoring in. Think about the schedule makers. Like what they're more importantly thinking about is the television networks because everybody's trying to figure out how they're going to get the Cowboys on. So that's a way bigger consideration than do they have 3 road games in a row.
Here's where I think is a disadvantage, and I don't think the Cowboys are wanting to switch divisions, and nobody really wants that. But I saw somewhere where I think it's Philly or Washington that doesn't have to get on a plane.
Really?
I saw that, yeah.
They don't have to get on a plane for the last 6 weeks.
Because they're playing Washington and they play the Giants and back and forth and all that stuff. But the Cowboys, I mean, those are some really long trips to do that. Yeah. So that's not an advantage, obviously, for the Cowboys, to have their road trips in the division are a lot different.
I mean, we've seen every road trip for the Cowboys is pretty much about in the same range. Like you're going somewhere.
Yeah.
Like there's not a lot of teams that are local to the Cowboys. And once you get outside of the Texans, and if you want to include the Saints, like there's no teams that are close to the Cowboys. So you got to get on a plane and travel at least an hour and a half for every game.
There's only 5 or 6 teams that can pull that off, where you're like busing to a game. But
it's the East Coast basically.
It is interesting, and I don't want this. Like the rivalries are important, but a division of Dallas Houston, New Orleans, Tennessee, like you're logging way fewer miles to travel to those games. But I wouldn't want
it ain't
that.
as much fun.
No, of course it's not.
There's no
We're
history.
just nitpicking,
and that
here.
goes
Like,
back to my point, which is like,
not a big deal.
Shut up and deal with it.
Yeah.
Like it's pro
Play
football.
football.
Like
Let's go.
play football. Like
we're just
I can sit here and say like, oh man, that looks really tough. At the end of the day, I'm like, nobody cares. Go play the games.
Right. All right, we're going to take our final break. We'll come back. We'll get a game of see or no going. Amber's got some questions for us. We'll do that when we come right back. This is DallasCowboys.com radio.
Since 1865, Stetson hats are American-made with pride right here in Texas. And Stetson is proud to be on the field with America's team. Want to show your Texas and team pride too? You can. By purchasing your own Stetson, you can look just like how the flag guys do on field at every home game. Stetson hats, the official crown of all self-respecting Cowboys and your favorite football team.
Get yours today at shop.dallascowboys.com or at stetson.com.
Honey, big news.
Gary, are you okay?
Oh, I'm not Gary anymore. I'm Jackie Flash.
What?
See, I want the latest smartphone, but the best deals are only for new customers. So, to get a new customer deal, I changed my name to Jackie Flash.
Okay, but the best smartphone deals at AT&T are for everyone, new and existing customers.
That's huge. Then guess who's getting a deal?
Is it Jackie Flash?
Jackie Flash.
It's not complicated. At AT&T, our best smartphone deals are for everyone. Restrictions apply. Visit att.com for details.
Want to use what the pros use? How about the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black? Right now, you can get the Jack Black Starter, a curated collection of Cowboys locker room favorites for just $10 with free shipping. The starter includes 4 Jack Black skincare favorites, plus a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Go to getjackblack.com/Cowboys and use the code word TEAMJB. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys. The Jack Black Starter, $10, free shipping.
We're back with a tasty treat that's sweeping airwaves and taste buds. It's new Dr. Pepper and Cream Soda. Let's take a listen.
Dr. Pepper and Cream Soda's here. A new combo that's music to my ears, okay? Let's play. Cream Soda and Dr. Pepper time. Pour it in a glass of ice.
Ah, music to my ears and mouth. New Dr. Pepper and Cream Soda.
A delicious duet.
Back to the break.
The Star District is the perfect place for the whole family to enjoy. You can support local Frisco businesses by visiting us to dine, shop, and explore the Dallas Cowboys-themed campus. For information on all the Star has to offer, visit thestardistrict.com.
Welcome back to the final segment of the break. We are live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star, presented by Geico. Amber, you got a game for us. Let's go. What you got?
Okay, a lot of the questions I received are us getting way ahead of ourselves, but it's a game.
That's
so
what we do.
Just for fun. So we just got done talking about the schedule. The final game between Cowboys versus Eagles will decide if the Cowboys or another team wins the NFC East.
100% C. Yes, that Cowboys-Eagles game will have something to do with the division title championship. Yeah, I believe that.
I'd say no.
I'm going to say no.
I actually think that game on December 26th will ultimately decide the division against Washington football team.
I wrote that, like my snap judgment was both of those games happening in December will be what swings the division. And like maybe something will still be up for grabs, like seeding in that Week 18 game, but it really, like, when was the last time that it was like a pure winners in, losers out? I know they did it a lot like a decade ago, but it hasn't really been that way in a while, right? I'm not making that up, right?
No. I just think these are your two best teams in the division. I think they will be the two best.
Washington
teams.
and Dallas?
No, Dallas and Philly.
Interesting.
Huh, okay.
Yeah, I do.
You think they're better? You think Philly's better than Washington?
Mm-hmm.
Because Washington, I think, well, we all know their defense was really good last year. Yeah. They've added some pieces to that offense that I think can fit nicely with that defense, you know?
I don't trust Ryan Fitzpatrick to play 17 good games, and they're screwed if he doesn't. But
he's better than what they had.
And he's better than maybe it's because we watched Dallas just pick on Jalen Hurts, but like I do not think highly of Jalen Hurts. Yeah. Not right now, at least.
We'll see. I don't know. I do think that game's going to mean something for somebody. You know, I mean, it's only 50% of the division, so I mean, I think it's fair to say that'll happen. I think it will.
Didn't Washington sign Curtis Samuel?
Yes.
Like, you start thinking about the offensive pieces that they put in place. Again, they don't need their offense to be like great. They need an offense that doesn't lose the game for them because their defense is so good. And in a second year, I think they're going to be even better. So I don't know. I think Washington's going to be a tough. Huh?
You just described the Cowboys in the opposite way.
Yeah, they're the opposite of the Cowboys. Exactly the opposite of the Cowboys. Yeah.
Washington is a good quarterback away from being pretty scary.
Really, really good. Yeah, I agree.
I guess we'll see.
Which is the hardest thing to find in football. I get that.
And,
like, I know.
The interesting thing is a lot of those contracts are going to come up pretty soon, for them. So they're going to have
Washington?
Yeah, I'm not saying their window is closing at all because they can sign them, but I'm just saying they drafted a lot of those guys. It's kind of like Carolina a few years ago. You get all these good defensive guys, and then next thing you know, they become free agents. Can you sustain it?
And the tough part for Washington now is they have a really good defense that's going to keep them in a lot of games, which means that the likelihood that they will get high enough in a draft to be able to draft a quarterback is relatively low. So trying to get a quarterback at this point when you already built a defense that's this good becomes very difficult. Now you gotta bet on the fact that you can get a quarterback later in a draft.
They trade for Rodgers.
They can get a quarterback later in the draft that will allow them to be that can really raise their level of play. That's a harder thing to do.
No, thank you.
Yes. No,
All right, next question. Micah Parsons starts week 1 against Tampa Bay. See or no?
I'm going to say no.
What?
You better.
I'm going to say no. But again, we opine so much.
Tell me why.
Because you're only going to have 2 on the field, and you starting just means you have to be out there for the first snap.
So why?
Because
he's a first-round pick. First-round picks, we know first-round. I don't care what you want to say about whoever was here, but he's a first-round pick. Right?
Leighton Vander Esch didn't come on right away. He wasn't just like the guy from the get as a rookie.
What does that say about Leighton? I mean,
that it's hard to be a down starter as a rookie player.
I know, but you expect a linebacker, or you expect any player that you take in the top, 15 picks in the first round. You expect them to be immediate starters, do you not?
He strained. He did. I remember Leighton did something at training camp where he meant. Oh,
what about play? Right.
I'm telling you right now. I don't even feel bad about saying this. Micah Parsons will play 40 snaps against the Bucs. He won't be out there for the first snap of the game. That's just. It's just
remember
a gut
politics.
Feeling. Yeah. Nope. Yes.
But politics usually happen when you have an existing coaching staff that these are their guys. They got no vested interest in those other 2 linebackers. They really don't. This is their guy. Micah Parsons is their guy.
Nothing against the question, but it really doesn't matter. This isn't like wide.
That's also
You're
my
gonna
point.
See them
This
all.
isn't quarterback. I mean, they're going to play. They're going to play.
Yeah. All right.
I'm sorry, and then we can move on. But it's not that common unless you're Chase Young. It's not that common to just snap one of day one. You're just like, I'm the guy. This is me.
Lunch attender.
Absolutely. Right. We'll make a lunch bet on this.
Not a bet. We're just going to take each one of us will take the other one to lunch. We'll figure that out.
I think
that's your second linebacker lunch bet.
That is. Yeah, we'll see how that one turns out. I'm feeling pretty good about my prospects of having barbecue for free.
I don't want to.
Jalen Smith to the Pro Bowl is what I said.
Yeah, that is what you said.
I don't hate Micah, and I think he's going to play a lot of snaps this year. But I bet he won't be the starter.
Yeah, to clarify, I don't hate Micah.
No, well, we talked about that last week. The minute you doubt something, it's like, oh, he hates Parsons.
He hates Micah Parsons.
No, I just feel like that's how this goes most of the time.
All right, see or no? The Cowboys will have 4 or more starters on the O-line for 14-plus games.
14 of the 17.
If they do, they're in the playoffs. So
preseason count?
No.
No. No.
That's a tough one.
No, they won't.
Based on history?
They won't.
See, if you'd have gone 3, I would have been like, okay, you can kind of convince me that maybe they'll have 3 on the field for 14 games. 4?
4 is a lot. 4 means that they'll be in the playoffs. If 4 of the 5 are there all season long, basically,
they might have already wrapped up the division if they have all of those offensive linemen on the field for 14. Get the first 14
I don't want to
games.
go that far.
Well, I mean, that's just going to make it competitive against Washington. And when you remember,
True.
I mean, Washington dominated them like that. If the guys were out there, Lyle and all them, because I think you can go back to that Thanksgiving game. Martin was there. Flint Cam Fleming? No, Cam Fleming. Irving. Sorry. I knew it was some Cam. It's not here anymore. Cam. They did a nice job. They moved the ball, and now you thought they were going to be competitive. Then they both go out in that series, and it went down from there. But
yeah, it did.
Yeah, I think it's going to be way more competitive just to have the strength versus strength there with that offensive line, defensive line.
Yeah. I just think that's asking for a lot with what we've seen from this group over the last 3 years.
I can't bet on 4.
No, that's too much.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. All right. Another one that's tough. The Cowboys will be a top 10 defense with the roster and the changes that they've made this offseason.
No. Big old no.
Ooh, I see Nick thinking about it.
No,
okay, I thought you were thinking about it.
Nope.
Like, okay, you going out there? Okay.
No.
Okay, someone else said 15.
Okay.
Does that change
I will
it?
take that.
You will take 15?
I'll take because once again, where were they the year before? The year before last, they were, I want to say, 11 or 9.
Well, you know what they were last year?
They were 31? 30?
No, they were like 27.
24.
24 in yards, 27 or 28 in scoring.
That's what
24 in yards? I didn't realize that. I thought it was much lower than that.
No, that's what I was asking. Like, what is the number?
What's the metric you're using?
What's the metric? So,
defense, they use it by yards.
Use it by yards. Yeah. And as bad as they were giving up points last year, and they gave up more than any in the Cowboys history, but yeah, they were like 24th or something like that. So to get to 15, possible.
I think it's very possible. Again, I look at where they were 2 years ago. I'm a big believer now. I'm a big believer in the fact that the problems they saw last year on defense had a ton to do with the coordinator. And I just look at what they were, because I don't think the personnel changed drastically. I think there were 1 or 2 guys that you could say, well, yeah, they make a big difference, but I don't think it changed that drastically to have the drop that they did. I think the coordinator was the big issue, and so I expect them to get back up at least to the top half of the league in yards that they allow.
I'll settle for 17th with a positive turnover differential.
If you get a positive turnover,
that matters way more.
That's huge.
I have another one that is specifically asking about the rushing defense. And I mean, there are, like you guys said, there are different metrics and different ways you can analyze this off the defense. No. But do you guys expect the rushing defense to improve significantly this year?
Can it get worse?
It actually cannot, because they were 32.
That's what I'm saying. It can't get worse.
It can't.
So yes, they will be better.
I went back and listened to the show last week while I was in the gym this morning, and I just got mad all over again.
About y'all fighting about Bohanna?
Which the combination, just the resources that they put into defensive tackle, Bohanna's part of it. Brent Urban, in my opinion, is also part of it. 2 other draft picks, Golston and Odigizua, who can help. And then the guys that were here. Maybe I'm just... I don't know. Maybe this is just favoritism. I felt really good about what Tristan Hill was doing. And he was only there he got hurt.
I agree.
He didn't even get the flowers of people being sad that he got hurt, because he got hurt the same day as Dak. Mm-hmm. So if he's back and can continue the trajectory that it looked like he was on, I think that's exciting. And then you add Micah to go along with what's already there at linebacker. Yes, they will absolutely improve.
Think about the improvement between Tristan Hill year 1 and year 2. Okay, it was a pretty significant improvement.
He looked like a viable football player last year after not being able to get on the field.
So whatever he improved, whatever the percentage of improvement, whatever that is. What if Neville Gallimore improves that much from year 1 to year 2?
If you're actually, I was talking about this yesterday. Like, if you're just like sneaky storylines that make you feel excited, like everybody's excited about Dak, we get that. But like Neville and Tristan together, that's exciting and intriguing to me. That like the defensive tackle position could be surprisingly good if those guys grow into who the front office thinks they can be.
Yep.
So. That's how I feel about that.
Odigizua, I think, is a guy they're really excited about too. And here's another thing about Bohanna, the guy I've always been trying to get. Big, fat, sloppy guy. That's not Bohanna. Now Bohanna is 330 pounds. He doesn't look like it though. I mean, he's in good shape for his size and all that. He's got a lot of strength to him. And the joke was, Quinn said he's going to be right here on the ball. Well, a couple times at practice, he actually wasn't. He was in the 3 technique, so they kind of moved him a little bit.
You kind of take that a little grain of salt because you just don't know. They don't have a lot of people.
They don't have a lot of guys. I just think he's a big, strong guy, but I think he's going to have a little bit more movement than you think.
I'll say this. When I was watching him and going back to you talking about the conversation from last week and the argument between you two, I could not remember what the argument was, but all I could see is while I was watching, I'm like, I'm on Derek's side on this one.
Which also,
based on what I was looking at.
The classic meme of like, you think about the perfect rebuttal 2 hours later, you never have it. Like, good one techniques get drafted high all the time. Vita Vea, it happened. Danny Shelton was another one.
Not all the time. I mean, it happens sometimes.
If a one technique is a stud, he's worth drafting in the first round. That's all I'm saying.
But I will say there are certain positions, and you cover the draft way more than I do. There are certain positions where you have to be exceptionally great to get into that conversation. Defensive tackle is one of those positions. You don't just, especially one technique, you don't get into that conversation unless you're exceptional. I'm not saying he's exceptional. What I'm saying is he fits a terrible need for the Cowboys. And he's the only guy, by the way, that could fill that need. And that's why I think he's going to get opportunities.
I'm riding with Brent Urban on this one. That's
okay,
all.
We'll see.
We'll see.
We will see.
All right, one last one real quick.
No, that's
we're
it.
Good? You're hungry? Let's go eat.
That's it. I'm hungry. It's lunchtime.
That's
Let's
the
go
only
eat.
no Derek gave the whole time.
That's a first.
Time to go eat. All right, we appreciate you guys joining us. We'll be back on next Wednesday. We'll have more talk for you guys. Till then, for Nick Eatman, Dave Hellman, Amber Garcia, I am Derek Eagleton. This has been The Break, live on DallasCowboys.com radio.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.